terms of the upfront development of the online courses versus the face-to-face? Is there a difference in that regard as well?
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit about it. Developmental costs, I think that those are, as far as the instructor's time, that's part of the instructor's duties, whether they're offering online the first time or in class the first time. But having the Teaching and Learning Center that we have and the online course developers, that's all, I guess, a base cost, fixed cost that we do have to notice.
Related question then, how do you see the future of online learning in UOIT in terms of its role in the institution and in terms of the potential to reach those perhaps not in the education?
Yeah, I think it has great potential. From my personal opinion and from at least what I hear in our discussions, I don't see UOIT ever becoming a totally online university. I think UOIT's main focus would be on hybrid, getting the best of both worlds then. But much like now, so the government's going through a lot of discussions on differentiation. I think what it is for us is to be very key and very focused on what online programs that we have. So I think that we've been pretty deliberate in what we've been doing, whether it be the Masters of Education online, BA Adult Ed, which is really targeting those students who have already completed college diploma, and the Bachelor of Allied Health Sciences online, same type of thing. So it's very focused. It's to a unique subset of students, and those can be, totally international programs. So I think that kind of focus, rather than just being the general online courses and trying to compete with everybody else across, in that case, the world, and especially with Ontario looking at this online university of some sorts or consortium of some sorts, we have to continuously watch what they're doing.
So in that regard, it's also keeping a close eye on, for lack of a better word, the competitive environment.
Absolutely. A lot of universities will talk a little bit about, we're not in competition, we're so differentiated, but it's up to the students to choose where they're going to go. So it's absolutely competition. What we have to try and find out is how we can do, I think the coined term was cooperation, how we can work with each other so that, we can set certain online courses and work with someone else who's doing online courses.
Makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
And my final question for you is, do you have any examples that you'd like to share with us that have to do with either budgeting successes or financial successes, or any instances where you sort of were challenged in terms of the financial management of one of the programs?
Yeah, as far as successes, definitely the one thing that I can guarantee people with my enrollment projections is I'm going to be wrong, right? It's a bit of a science, but it's much more of an art. This past year, we were within less than 1% off of the enrollment target. So there are successes. And what I'll say is, during my first year as an institutional planner, I went to a conference and learned this really intricate regression analysis, formulas that I spent 4 months doing. The next year I went to the same conference and heard from a person who said, if you just take your year one intake times your normal retention rate, let's say it's 80%, it's a simple model, and it worked probably within 1% of the more complicated model. So successes are, really find out how useful these complex models are compared to simplified ones. As far as, yeah, it is. And things change so much. That's why you need a simplified model that you can, it's got to be flexible. You can change on the fly. As far as the lessons learned, and I think this is where, they're not so much failures as you really go through something the first time and you learn something. It's important to have that contingency. Anything that's enrollment based, you have to have that contingency because, as I said, thinking about 70 programs across the university, let's say every single one of those was just off by 2 students. that's somewhere around $3 million difference for us. And we're very small compared to, imagine what would happen at a U of T. So you do have to have those enrollment contingencies in place. And I think probably the second lesson learned was I came into this role as a budgeter from a different landscape, and I was very conservative. I was working with a person who was actually in this role at the time and sent out to the faculties, here is what the budget is set on as far as enrollments, which is quite different than the high target people should be using for scheduling, because once you set your scheduling, you're in trouble and you can't really go over that. And UOIT was in a spot where we were trying to grow at all costs. So the problem was when they take the very conservative number, they don't have enough seats. And believe it or not, sometimes it's bad to have, over and this extra revenue because you haven't planned for the extra faculty members that need to teach. You haven't planned for the extra TAs. So I guess my lesson learned is, it's important to be dead on and have your risk management issues for both under and over.
Wow, that's really interesting too, because I come from a commerce background, so it seems counterintuitive to what I'm kind of used to.
That was exactly it. I was happy with going with this conservative. It looked great for budget when I got in all this money. However, I found, 3 weeks before school when I was showing the deans, here's some good stuff. They're like, we have no space for these students. Which is where online will play a great role because it was much easier to add on those online sections.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
I was trying to look through if there's any great tidbits, and I have none, but I'm happy if anybody has any questions afterwards to answer them or talk to people, because this is actually one of those fun roles at the university.
Well, I thank you, and I think you did share with us a lot of really fascinating tidbits, so I'm really grateful, and I'm sure the class will really appreciate hearing your perspective. So thank you very much for your time.
All right, thanks.